She slid a small piece of paper across the table. A single sentence written in careful handwriting. Please say yes. It was quiet, intimate, almost invisible to the world. And yet, that moment said more about Richard Gere than decades of red carpets ever could. He was once the silver screen ideal. A Hollywood icon whose presence didn't demand attention. It commanded stillness. A man whose gaze spoke louder than dialogue, whose silence could carry an entire scene. And then, at the height of his fame, Richard Gere walked away. No meltdown, no scandal, no dramatic farewell, just absence. For years, Hollywood kept calling his name. And for years, he chose not to answer. This is not the story most people think they know. This is the story of a man who spent his life searching for a way to remain himself, even when the cost was everything. Richard Tiffany Gere was born on August 31, 1949, in Philadelphia, the second of 5 children in a disciplined, middle-class family. His father sold insurance. His mother kept the household running with quiet strength. The home was modest, orderly, and grounded in responsibility. Noise never defined his childhood. Reflection did. After the family moved to upstate New York, Richard grew into a sensitive, intellectually curious boy. He found comfort in music, mastering piano, guitar, bass, and trumpet. He composed for school productions, excelled in athletics, and earned a college scholarship. By every measure, his future looked practical and secure. At the University of Massachusetts Amherst, he studied philosophy, drawn not to certainty but to questions. After 2 years, he walked away from the degree, choosing art over safety. It disappointed his family, but it aligned with a rule he would live by forever. Never live someone else's version of your life. The stage came first. In 1973, he stunned London audiences as Danny Zuko in Grease. He followed with daring theatrical roles that tested his range and moral courage. His early film work revealed something rare. An actor who didn't perform loudly, but listened on screen. Then came Days of Heaven. Few words, endless presence. Hollywood noticed. With American Gigolo in 1980, Gere became a new kind of sex symbol, controlled, introspective, quietly dangerous. Masculinity without bravado. Desire without excess. An officer and a gentleman turned him into a legend. Pretty Woman turned him into an icon. But fame never seduced him the way it seduced others. While the world projected fantasies onto him, Richard Gere remained elusive. His relationships were real, private, and often misunderstood. He loved deeply, but he also withdrew deeply. The most public chapter came with Cindy Crawford. A supermodel at 22. A movie star at 39. They married quietly, defended their love fiercely, and divorced without spectacle. Years later, both admitted the truth. They were in different stages of becoming. Gere wasn't searching for applause. He was searching for alignment. That search led him inward, toward Buddhism, meditation, silence, toward questions that Hollywood had no interest in answering. And then came the night that changed everything. At the 1993 Academy Awards, Richard Gere stood on stage and spoke about human rights in Tibet live, unscripted, unfiltered. The room froze, the industry listened, and then it quietly turned away. For more than 2 decades, Gere was effectively shut out of the Oscars. Studios stopped calling. Films lost distribution. No one said it outright, but everyone understood. He paid the price for conviction. He didn't protest. He didn't complain. He stepped back. When controversy followed again in 2007, after a misunderstood public gesture at an AIDS awareness event in India, Gere absorbed the backlash with the same restraint. Charges were eventually dismissed, but the message was clear. The world had little patience for nuance. So he chose stillness. Independent films replaced blockbusters. Meditation replaced premieres. Purpose replaced relevance. Then, quietly, love returned, this time without spectacle. Alejandra Silva didn't enter his life as a fan or a fixture of Hollywood. She came with her own history, her own convictions, and a life devoted to humanitarian work. Their bond was built slowly, deliberately, across continents and handwritten letters. They married in a Buddhist ceremony surrounded by monks, not cameras. They built a family grounded in presence, gratitude, and service. Fame was no longer the axis of his life. Today, Richard Gere lives mostly out of the spotlight. He supports humanitarian causes without announcement. He practices Buddhism without performance. He chooses meaning over momentum. He didn't vanish. He withdrew. In an industry addicted to noise, Richard Gere chose quiet. In a culture obsessed with staying visible, he chose to remain true. His legacy isn't just the films that shaped a generation. It's the rare example of a man who stepped away from power, fame, and approval, and found peace on the other side. Not everyone disappears because they are lost. Some leave because they've finally found themselves.